Beeson, Illinois, population 200. A place where everyone knows their neighbors, where families grow up together, and where people never think to lock their doors. But one September night would shatter that small-town peace forever, when a man who was supposed to be family became a monster. Rick G. was a man who built things. From homes to businesses, his calloused hands were always creating something new. Starting out at his stepfather's construction company in Lincoln, Illinois, Rick worked tirelessly, saving every dollar he earned. By the late 1990s, his dream finally took shape. A ranch house on the outskirts of Beeson, with plenty of room for the family he hoped to build. He even started his own business, GC Construction. But running a company meant bills to pay, so Rick made a decision that would change his life forever. He decided to rent out a room. That's when Ruth Constant entered his life. A single mother with 2 young children. 3-year-old Justina and 1-year-old Dylan needed a fresh start, and Rick's home offered exactly that. What started as a landlord-tenant relationship quickly blossomed into something deeper. Ruth's warmth and humor matched perfectly with Rick's steady determination. In 1997, they married, blending their families and their dreams. Soon, they welcomed their first child together, Austin. And a year later, their daughter Jessica arrived. But life had other plans. Jessica was born with severe neurological conditions. Unable to find proper care in Beeson, the family faced an impossible choice. Despite this heartbreak, the G's remained strong. Their home was filled with love, laughter, and the chaos that comes with raising children. Rick's daughter Nicole was growing up too. At 18, she caught the eye of a local young man, Christopher Harris, 21 years old, charming, and seemingly devoted to Nicole. They married young and settled just down the road from Rick and Ruth. Soon they welcomed their first child, making Rick and Ruth proud grandparents. By 2009, it seemed the G family had everything they'd ever wanted: a loving home, healthy children, and a bright future ahead. But no one could see the darkness lurking behind one family member's smile. September 21st, 2009, a Monday morning like any other in Beeson. 10-year-old Satan Landstrom pedaled his new bike through the quiet streets, excited to show it to the G family. But as he approached their front porch, something stopped him cold. Blood smeared across the wooden boards, the front door slightly ajar. Terrified, he raced to Nicole's house, where Rick's stepfather Pudge and grandson Adam had spent the night laying carpet. Adam reached the porch first. A knife lay at the bottom of the steps. Something was terribly wrong. With trembling fingers, Adam flipped on the hallway light. What he saw next would haunt him forever. As officers approached the house, their radio calls painted a grim picture. Multiple victims discovered. Additional units needed. A scene so horrific that even veteran officers would struggle to process what they found. As investigators moved through the house, they encountered a scene of unimaginable violence. 5 members of the G family had been attacked in their beds: Rick, Ruth, Austin, Dylan, and Justina. A family destroyed in a single night of inexplicable brutality. But amid the darkness, a miracle. In a closet, officers found 3-year-old Tabitha, barely alive. Racing against time, paramedics rushed her to the nearest trauma center. As doctors fought to save her life, investigators faced a chilling question. Who could have committed such a horrific act against this beloved family? The answer would shock the entire community. As dawn broke over Beeson, investigators began piecing together the puzzle of that terrible night. Their first break, a distinctive shoe print outside the house. K-Swiss sneakers, the pattern clear in the soil. Inside, a bloody handprint on the bathroom vanity told them something else. This wasn't a random act of violence. Then came the witness reports. A silver pickup truck seen cruising past the house that night. Custom exhaust pipes rising behind the cab. But the real breakthrough came from an unlikely place. The hospital where little Tabitha fought for her life. An officer, finishing his protective detail at Tabitha's room, shared an elevator with Christopher Harris, Nicole's husband and the children's uncle. The officer glanced down and froze. On Chris's feet, K-Swiss sneakers. Within hours, detectives brought Chris in for questioning. The shoes were a half size off from the print, but something wasn't adding up. Entered Jason Harris, Chris's brother. He quickly provided an alibi, claiming they were together that night, far from Beeson. Jennifer Erest, Jason's girlfriend, and her mother, Sarah Duncan, backed up their story. But as investigators dug deeper, the carefully constructed alibis began to crumble. The crime lab confirmed it. Chris's palm print matched the bloody mark in the bathroom. Then came Laurie Cole's story. The security guard remembered Chris and Jason at her door that night, around 11:35 p.m., just blocks from the G home. And Christy Moore, Chris's occasional lover, revealed something else. Hours after the murders, Chris had visited her, acting as if nothing was wrong. But the evidence told a different story, and soon, one of the brothers would break. Facing multiple life sentences, Jason Harris made a choice: protect his brother or tell the truth. He chose to talk, but the truth would come out in pieces, 13 different versions of that night. Yet one detail remained constant. Chris Harris was the killer. And as Jason began to talk, the horror of that September night finally came into focus. It started with drugs and alcohol. The brothers were out partying, driving around in a silver pickup. According to Jason, Chris had developed an obsession with 16-year-old Justina, his sister-in-law. He claimed she had been flirting with him. When their attempts to find female company failed that night, Chris made a fatal decision to visit the G home. Rick answered the door. Words were exchanged. Then everything went wrong. What happened next revealed both the horror of that night and the incredible courage of 14-year-old Dylan Constant. As violence erupted inside, Dylan jumped through a window, trying to escape. But instead of running to safety, he went back inside, attempting to save his family. 3 times he confronted the attacker. 3 times he chose courage over safety. In his final moments, Dylan Constant wasn't just a victim. He was a hero trying to protect those he loved. When it was over, Chris and Jason drove away. The tire iron was tossed into a creek, the bloodied shoes discarded. But the truth couldn't stay buried. Chris's former cellmate would later reveal his only regret, that he hadn't burned the house down to hide his crimes. 5 lives were taken that night, a family destroyed, and the man responsible was someone they had trusted as their own. On May 31st, 2013, justice finally came to Beeson. Christopher Harris faced his accusers. His defense team tried to blame Dylan, claiming Chris had walked in on the teenager committing the murders. The jury saw through the lies. Christopher Harris was found guilty on all counts, 5 consecutive life sentences, plus 30 years for the attempted murder of Tabitha, plus 30 more for home invasion. But it was 7-year-old Tabitha's words that silenced the courtroom. For child voice actor, "I am 7, and it still breaks my heart. I wish you were dead, and my brother's sister and mommy and daddy were alive. Do you know how badly that broke my heart?" Through multiple surgeries and countless hours of therapy, little Tabitha fought her way back. She found a new home with her sister Nicole, while the state troopers who had protected her became like family. Today, in Beeson, a playground stands in memory of Austin, Dylan, and Justina, and where a community remembers the G family, not for how they died, but for how they lived, and the courage of a young boy named Dylan who faced evil and chose to fight.